Okay, back on the Miller and Kreisel MX200. I conversed with the customer via email, and he asked that I go ahead and just pop this board up and just take a look at the solder connections just to make sure everything looks copacetic. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to start by, those aren't even tight. Okay, well, I guess it's a good thing that he sent it. Every one of these is just finger tight at this point. No tools required. Okay, let's get these off. Probably going to try to do most of this in real time without speeding too terribly much up. It's probably going to be a little, I don't know, mid-length video. Not too terribly long, not too terribly short as well. I'm guessing 30 to 45 minutes. And I do want to connect this up to a watt meter and just drive a sine wave into it and see what kind of output I get. Still have the screws and the egg carton. Okay, that's done. Oh, you know what? I'm going to do the trick. Hang on. So one thing that I've found, I'm trying to keep that open to keep it from flexing. One thing that I have found that if you take some electrical tape, what is that wedged down in there? It's a tip for a meter. Cat 3, 1000 volts, Cat 5, 600 volts. Well, I'll include that back to the customer. So one thing I've noticed is if you take some black tape, or actually you could probably use virtually any kind of tape, and let's cut it right there. Give it just a little bit of stretch. It's going to somewhat hold the heatsink into place. It just makes it easier for reassembly. I think I'll go 3 on this one because it is an exceptionally large heatsink. Okay, that should be good. And then once you're done, you can just go ahead and remove the tape. Okay, remember there's spacers under here. You don't want to lose the spacers. And of course, these are the tough ones. There are spacers in between the circuit board and the STK chip as well. Those are sometimes fun to put back together. And there they are, right there. Make sure you have those and don't lose them. They go in between the STK chip and the board. So let's flip this around where we can get a somewhat view of it. And I will enable macro zoom and we'll take a look at the solder connections on this board. One moment. Okay, these solder connections right here have definitely been hot, but it looks like he did a very good job getting down to the copper. So I like that one. There's another one over in this neighborhood. That one has definitely been hot. That's the 5K, I believe a 2400 ohm dropping resistor. And there, oh, just lost everything. Come on, focus. There it is. There is the big resistor standing up right there. So I like the looks of that, no problem at all. Now let's go ahead and get down with your bad self. Look at the connections on the Molex connector. They look absolutely perfect. And then coming up this way is going to be the STK chip on the left. And then we should see some solder connections that were made. There's one capacitor right there. Well, the bigger the glob, the better the job. So they're not going to break free anytime soon, at least. And up here is another one. Those look perfectly acceptable. And up a little bit farther is one of the small caps. No bridges, and everything looks great. I did go ahead and basically reach my hand up underneath and jiggle the component to see if it would vibrate at all on the bottom of the board, and it's rock solid to the board. I think the next capacitors are going to be, well, let's do these over here by the power resistor first. There's one of them right there. And that one, it's rock solid. That's one of the Zener diodes. And the other capacitor and the other Zener diode. I don't see any cold solder joints. I don't see any issues with that at all. And then back down to the big 5-watt resistor right there. Now, unfortunately, for the next test, I'm going to have to lift the STK chip up and bend the leads. I really don't like doing that any more than absolutely necessary. Those look absolutely perfect underneath right there. That one looks great. And then on this one, he lost the pads off the board. So what he did is he bared some copper and then soldered the leads to the bare copper. And I don't see any movement coming out of there. I'm wiggling the capacitor on the top of the board, and I see absolutely no movement whatsoever. Let's go ahead and ESR these things since we got it open. Just make sure they test good for brand new, I believe they're Nichicon caps. One moment. Okay, I've got my ESR tester ready. I have the leads zeroed out. 0.00. And so let's just go ahead and start over here. Hopefully I don't get too much in the way. I believe this is going to be a 100 and a 0.43 ohms. I'm great with that. A 10. 1.4 ohms, that's perfect. The other 10, 1.4 ohms. To verify that we do have a good electrical connection, I can read it at the chip, 1.5 ohms. So that's just the resistance of the leads themselves. So basically 0 to 0.01 on that one. So yeah, this thing will read down into the hundredths of an ohm. I believe this is a 1, if I'm not mistaken. I could be. Yeah, 2.9 ohms. That is great. So very, very gently bend the STK chip back over. Another 100 at 0.42 ohms. Another 100 at 0.41, 0.42 ohms. Great. Over here on the other side, 0.42 ohms and 0.41 ohms. All those look absolutely perfect. I don't believe there were any other caps replaced. So I've tilted this up just a little bit to do a quick inventory. The 2 here, the 3 big ones, and the 2 small ones. I think I missed 1. Yes, I did. I missed a 10 right there. And 0.93 ohms, that's great. Little excess solder, I don't mind that. I'd rather have too much solder than not enough. And the leads are not moving as I wiggle the capacitor at all. Okay, I like what I see. I'm not worried about anything down here. Everything looks great. I'm just going to go ahead and remount this to the heat sink, and then we'll hook it up to the signal generator and watch the power output on the watt meter. One moment. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. Sorry about the overexposure. Didn't notice it until just now. So next, I am going to try to get everything untangled over here. And I want to try to find a couple of larger washers, because if you notice, the shield right here is a little bit mangled up. And it flips up and it goes on to these two standoffs. Make sure they're tight, and yes, they are. So let me go digging around and try to find a larger washer. Well, out of order once again. You are out of order, sir. Let's put these guys on and get them tight so we don't forget. We don't need them falling off in the future and rattling around in the bottom of the cabinet. And click. We don't need to over tighten them, just make them good and tight. Honestly, I don't even know why they opted for gold plated. Just, it sells. That's probably the biggest reason. Okay, good and tight. So let's let me try to find the washers. I will be back. One moment. Okay, I think I managed to find just a couple of, put all the spare parts away, washers that are just big enough that they won't go over the standoffs right here. And they are large enough that I believe that they're going to provide a good, adequate ground. So I'm going to fold this back over. Although it looks like he opted for a second set of holes. Okay, well, we'll still use those, no problem. I should have had these ready in advance. There we go. Make sure there's still a plastic layer underneath. This will be a little bit quicker because I can assemble it with two hands. See if I can get it to go through the hole now. There it goes. I wonder. Huh. Now let's put it together and see what happens. There we go. Remember, that side had like a slot on it, so I could actually tension the shield a little bit. It is pulled just a hair tight, but it is plastic backed, so I don't think there's going to be an issue with it. And everything is clearing, even the plastic backing. Okay, let's go ahead and strip off the tape. That's a definite benefit to keeping the heatsink in place, is to have this tape on it. April 30th, 1997. Okay, I'm going to get this all reconnected and I'll get it aimed at the load over here and we'll take a look at the RMS output. One moment. Okay, here is the view of the ancient Syncor SG165. So here we go, everything's connected, power on. Signal generator is at 100 hertz, volume is down all the way. And I do have it in the 100 watt mode with speakers connected because I am using the dummy load over that way right there, down there. Okay, here we go. So that's about 15 watts RMS per side. Let me switch the output on my meter over here on the Variac. So I'm actually showing about 25, 28 watts per channel when it starts to go into limiting. It's interesting because it is actually pulling on the AC side right now at 117. Let's bump it up to about 125 volts. So we're actually pulling right now about 400 watts. It's about 3.25 amps right now. So I'm not quite sure why I'm not seeing the full 100 output. Your guess is as good as mine. Oh yeah, it's over 4 amps it's pulling right there with an extra 4 ohm load on it. I don't think this changes the way the meters read. Yeah, it's folding back. Well, interesting that I'm only seeing about 25 to 30 watts per channel. Well, about 28, I guess. But I'm telling you what, this thing is pulling some current. Almost 400 watts. I think it's working as designed. I'm not sure why the meter's not reading absolutely perfectly. I don't think having both of these connected at the same time is going to cause any issues. Yeah, it's exactly the same with just one channel connected. Very interesting. Make sure the contacts are not just messed up in here. Nope, absolutely exactly the same. And it does not go into clipping. That's one of the nice things about these speakers is they have the limiter circuit built into them, so they will not go into the clipping, which on these STK chips could damage them quite easily. I'm going to call it good. I'd like to see a little more output, like almost to the point of clipping. I'm going to take a quick peek at the schematic and see if there's an adjustment for that limiter. One moment. All right, so I'm just going to try to handhold this. So I've got 125 hertz signal going into it right here. Turn the volume up just a little bit. You can see frequency 125 and the volts peak to peak is 11.2 volts. And as I turn this up, you'll see there's a sudden burst. So right now the volt peak to peak is 52 volts. So if I turn that down all the way and I just give it a quick boop, peak to peak 77. Off camera I had this and it was showing almost 90. 78.8. Probably just depends on when it times. 78.4, but looking over here at the meter now, I've changed the frequency slightly and I'm getting a little over 40 watts, like 42 watts going into it right there. So pretty happy with that. I think I'm just going to button it up and ship it back to my customer. Probably just over 1 hour of time since he asked me to go ahead and pull the board off of this and do a test. Let me tell you, this is generating some heat. This is generating heat, and especially my dummy load back here. Yeah, it's got some heat to it. But that's going to be it on the Miller and Kreisel MX200. I certainly hope you enjoyed the video. Go ahead and leave me a question, a comment, a concern down below, good or bad. Once again, I try to respond when I have time, which really hasn't been that much recently. Trying to get caught up on this stuff. Just life, once again, life gets in the way. Anyhow, that's going to be it. You can follow me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X at NorCal715. You can email me, NorCal715videos@gmail.com. If you want to contact me, please just leave me a comment in one of the videos. I tend to check those way more often than emails. I've just been getting so many spam emails that it just sets me back so far. I don't even want to open that stupid thing anymore. Once again, thank you, everyone, for making it to the end of this video. I really, really appreciate it. Everyone have a great day. Bye-bye. Okay, well, back on the Miller and Kreisel MX200. Emailed the customer, copy of the video, the first part that I tested it. Everything seems to be working fine, and he asked that I go ahead and pull the board and just look at the solder connections on the bottom of the board. So let's go ahead. Let's take that over because I had manual exposure on and it is now off. Let's go to exposure, manual, and we'll pump it up because it was just a little too dark for my liking. That might be too bright. Okay, I like that. Let's take it over. Why is it moving? Okay, good enough. Okay, here we go. Take two. So I conversed with the customer via email. Wait, let's start that over. Ding dong. Okay, here we go. Scope capture. Check, check, check. And we are recording. Check, check, check. 1, 2, 3. Audio sync. Instagram or X. Excuse me. You can follow me on social media, Facebook. And we are recording. Check, check, check. 1, 2, 3. Audio sync.